This episode is brought to you by FXX and Hulu. Futurama returns on September 15th, blending heartfelt moments with razor-sharp humor while accidentally saving the day. The Planet Express crew is back, defying gravity and common sense. From the creator of The Simpsons comes 10 new episodes where the romance is hotter, the threats are bigger, and the action hits harder. Don't miss the all-new season of Futurama returning September 15th at 8 p.m. Watch it on FXX or stream it on Hulu.
Tonight, turn down the noise of the day and focus on the rest with AGZ, the nightly drink for winding down and resting up. New from AG1. AGZ supports your body's natural sleep cycle with clinically studied key herbs, adaptogens, and minerals in amounts supported by research. And no melatonin, helping you wake feeling rested. Wind down, rest up with AGZ. Learn more at drinkagz.com.
This message is sponsored by Greenlight. With school out, summer is the perfect time to teach our kids real-world money skills they'll use forever. Greenlight is a debit card and the #1 family finance and safety app used by millions of families, helping kids learn how to save, invest, and spend wisely. Parents can send their kids money and track their spending and saving, while kids build money confidence and skills in fun ways. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Spotify. That's greenlight.com/Spotify.
Hello and welcome back, y'all, to the Ghost of Tsushima Yotei Gamecast. I'm your host, Andrew Zink, and I'm super excited to welcome you back for episode 18, Act 3, Tales of Tsushima side quests. I can't believe we're already closing in on episode 20. Of course, we've already had more than 20 episodes if you count the Ghost of Yotei various bonus episodes we've released about the news that's been coming out. So really excited for Ghost of Yotei, but we are just about done with Act 3 in Ghost of Tsushima after this episode. So in this episode, we will cover the final Tales of Tsushima in Act 3, all the side quests that you can do. And this is these are side quests not affiliated with your main character allies that you can do. So yeah, there's a couple good ones here. There are only 4 in total in Act 3, and that's much different from Act 1 and 2, where there's a lot more. So this won't be the longest episode, but we will dive right in and hey, run through what all 4 of these quests are. So the first quest that we're going to do is called Fit for the Khan. So you get this quest really right after you liberate Jogaku Temple in Act 3. And so you just have to show up there, and then you speak with an apprentice of an armorer who is kind of just hanging out there. So when you walk up to him, I actually thought this part was kind of funny, but when you walk up to him, he's standing outside, and this guy is just looking cold as hell. Like, he's just standing there shivering, rubbing his arms. And as soon as I saw him, I was like, dude, we have buildings. You can go inside. But, I thought that was just comical. So when you talk to him, he tells you that the Mongols forced his master to craft a set of armor for Khotun Khan himself, but he had a chance to escape after completing the armor, so he fled with it. So, this then begins kind of a long quest where you basically have to liberate 4 Mongol-controlled places. So this apprentice informs you that 2 of the pieces of armor were hidden on different farms, but the Mongols got the other 2 pieces because his master got caught by the Mongols. And he refused to tell them where he hid the other 2 pieces, so they executed him. Very, very sad outcome there. So the apprentice says that his master would be honored if Jin were to wear the armor, and the apprentice says that if Jin can recover all the pieces, he'll make sure that the armor fits Jin properly. And this is where you start the quest. So yeah, there's 4 different locations that you have to go to and just clear them on Mongols, do a couple other objectives to recover each of the pieces. So the 4 locations are General Dogshin's mining camp, you got General Bartu's mining camp, there's the Kawachi Whaling Village, and the Morame Brewery. So we're going to do the 2 Mongol generals camps first. So these ones are the ones where you have to clear out the Mongols and defeat the general, and then you will get the armor. So the first one is General Dogshin's mining camp. So just a quick note, I thought these mining camps were so cool. You just see like, you see like the minecart tracks around, and there's some, mining infrastructure here and there, and the camps are kind of built into the sides of cliffs, so it just makes for a really cool level design. So, General Dogshin's mining camp is located in Jogaku Prefecture. So for clearing out this camp, you have to recover 4 Sashimono banners, and then you have to defeat the Hwacha operator. So some Hwachas up on a cliffside. And so after you complete these 2 objectives, you then will have to destroy a black powder cache, at which point you can then face General Dogshin. So yeah, this was a really cool map, and it's snowy, it's built into the side of a cliff. There's a lot of different levels, a lot of different advantage spots where you can have aerial advantage on people. There's Mongol yurts around that you can search inside for artifacts and supplies. To get to the Hwachas up on the cliff, you do have to climb, you have to grapple to get up there and clear the guards up there to clear, complete that objective. And then you can use the Hwacha afterwards, which is awesome. Anytime you can use a Hwacha, it's just awesome. I just want to say again, I thought this was like the coolest map of just like navigating this mining camp. So with these types of quests, you can just clear the place the same way you would anything else. You can use stealth, you can run out, you can do whatever you want. After you defeat all the Mongols and after you recover the 4 Sashimono banners and defeat the Hwacha operators, you can then destroy the black powder cache. And this is the same as the other Mongol-controlled places throughout the game, where it's like you just walk up to the cache and just light it on fire, and then it blows up. And after this, General Dogshin comes out. So at this point, this is another fully armored dual boss fight with General Dogshin. He's got the gold armor. He's got a sword and shield, so you definitely want to use the water stance there. And then, a bunch of Mongol soldiers watch as the duel happens. There's a bunch of really cool music, and you just kind of duel him the same way you would anybody else in a serious duel. There's not any dialogue with him throughout this duel to really talk about. So, you duel General Dogshin, eventually you defeat him, use all your mythic tale stances and techniques and everything. And after you defeat General Dogshin, the soldiers run away and you recover the boots to the armor. So that's pretty cool. So that's the first place. The second place we're going to dive into is General Bartu's camp. So again, it's just another cool mining camp that's built into the side of a cliff. And so there's different levels of rocks and cliffs where you can do climbing and jumping and using your grappling hook, which is just fun. So similar to General Dogshin's mining camp, in General Bartu's camp, you have to recover 4 Sashimono banners, but this time you have to release 3 falcons. So basically, it's the same thing. You just run around and you can sneak or you can duel everyone outright. You recover the banners, you release 3 falcons from the cages around the mining camp, and then after you do this, you can duel General Bartu. You don't have to set a black powder cache on fire this time. And so it's really the same as the other duel. The soldiers watch and you defeat him. There's no dialogue. Cool music though, so that's nice. And then after you defeat him, you receive the gloves to the armor. All right, so now we're at 2 of 4. That's pretty cool. So at this point, you've recovered the 2 pieces of armor that the Mongols captured. Now you need to recover the 2 pieces of armor that the armor master hid. So the next place you can go to is Kawachi Whaling Village. You can do any of these in whatever order you choose. So in Kawachi Whaling Village, you have to rescue 5 hostages. And so you basically just navigate around the village. You clear all the Mongols in each section, rescue the hostage, and that's how you get through this. So the Kawachi Whaling Village, I'd say it's a pretty normal sort of village all in all, where there's just buildings around and, you can clear guards inside the villages or inside the buildings. You can get on the roof and, use your bow and arrow or do air assassinates. The one thing I want to point out about the Kawachi Whaling Village that I think is so awesome is that, so it's on the coast. And if you go to the part of the village that's right up on the coast, you find like full-sized dead whales, and you can see like the whaling operation. And obviously no one's like actively working it when you go there, but you can see the way that, you know, the Japanese villagers have been like cutting the whale apart for meat and to use its blubber and other parts of the whale for trade. And you see how massive this whale is. It's just huge. And so like these huge strips of the whale that they like, you know, cut from the body are just massive, and they have them on carts. And, you know, I really loved this because it's showing you a side of, you know, the Japanese economy in this time, and just how people, the types of trades and resources that were available to them, and how people would, you know, use them in whatever way that they can to get by. So I just thought this was really cool to add in here. And again, like a part of me almost wished there was, I don't know, there was some more explicit mention of whaling in the game or something. But you know, so I just thought this was cool and wanted to shout it out. So yeah, I mean, you know, after you clear out the camp and rescue the 5 hostages, after you rescue the final hostage, he says, oh, someone was here and told us to hide this, but it's much safer in your care, in which case you are then given the helmet from the Kawachi Whaling Village. So that's cool. Now we've got 3 or 4 pieces. There's only one last place to go to complete this quest. You have to go to the Morame Brewery. And here you have to rescue 4 hostages. And this is a really cool location too, because when you arrive, I'm going to do my best to describe this. There's these stone walls that have been built into the hills. And the stone walls are like, you know, let's say they're 4 or 5 feet high each. And in each one, it's like frozen water. And then it like layers up of like stone wall, frozen water, then another stone wall, then more frozen water. So you can like climb them and jump down. And so this brewery, again, it's like built into these hills with these stone walls and frozen water there. It's interesting. I actually don't know why this is the case, but maybe I'll have to do an episode about breweries and why the design was like this. But it's a really cool map to play on. So you sneak around and clear enemies. And then, yeah, it's the same as the other one. You just clear different sections of the brewery, free hostages, and after you free the 4 hostages, the last hostage will give you the final piece of the armor, which is like a chest plate or something like that. And so then you take the 4 pieces of the armor and you return to the apprentice at Jogaku Temple. And when you return, Jin tells the apprentice that basically that he can take a student. The apprentice is kind of like distraught, saying that he wished he could have had like one more moment with his master and he's not sure what he should do now. And Jin says you can take a student and, you know, continue teaching this practice. And yeah, the apprentice gets really excited by this and says that, you know, now this is a way I can help my master's technique to live on. And that is the end of the quest. And you obtain from this quest the Mongol commander's armor. And so the effects of this armor is that it actually reduces your detection speed by Mongols. So if you're wearing this armor and you're like navigating a Mongol camp in stealth, they won't pick you up as fast. So that's a good side effect. And then it also reduces all damage and increases health. So all in all, it's a pretty good armor set. And I have one last thing I have to say about the Mongol commander's armor. This might be one of the funniest pieces of armor in this game. I mean, it's you're literally dressed like Khotun Khan or a Mongol commander. And the thing is, if you get this armor like as early as you can and then you wear it, there's certain cutscenes where you just look so goofy. And if you were to wear this through the main storyline quest, like, you know, the camera will pan over to Jin just wearing this like ridiculous looking Mongol commander armor. And just trust me, y'all, if y'all haven't played this game yet or done this quest yet, you gotta get this armor. It's just so funny to see yourself in. So I found this quest to be worth it just for that at the end. All right. Serious time. Back to the podcast. Okay, so the next quest is called A Father's Choice. So this takes place in Kin Prefecture, near the Deep Forest Lake. So you arrive to find a man who's been hanged, and this is on the side of a road, kind of with like a house or a farmstead there. And next to the person who's been hanged is a person who's crying, another man crying. And the crying person is saying, "Oh, Genta, like, I'm really sad. I can't believe this." So Genta is obviously the person who has been hung and is dead in the tree. So then you talk to the person crying, you get a cutscene. And so this person reveals himself to be the father of this person. The father says that the Mongols found out that his sons burned one of their supply wagons and then forced him to choose which son they would kill as punishment. Oh my God, that is just awful. Oh my God. So he then says that he is sure that it was his son's Chuta's idea to burn the wagon, and the Mongols took him across the nearby bridge. So Jin offers to go after him, and this is where you start the quest. So you follow the tracks along the river for a while. You cross the bridge and you're just like following tracks, and they just lead along this river until it leads you to a few houses up the road where there's a Mongol squad. So if you do a standoff with the Sakai armor, you can take out a lot of them here. It's not a huge squad, but then there's a couple more. You just get through the fight and defeat the Mongols there, and then you eventually find Chuta in a house, in one of the houses, and you rescue him. So when you're talking to him, he says that he told. so he tells you that Jin says to him, "Oh, your father told me how he saved you." And then Chuta says, "Saved me?" He says that his father told the Mongols to spare Genta without a second thought, but then out of cruelty, they chose to kill Genta instead. And so he says that his father was begging the Mongols to kill Chuta, but that they didn't listen. So Chuta confirms that he was the brains behind burning the supply wagon, and he says that he can't face his father. So he tells Jin to tell his father that he was too late and that Chuta is dead. So this is, I just find this to be such a sad, obviously breaking apart of a family that you're just in the middle of here, basically. So you then return to the farmstead. It's not super far away, and when you return, the father is gone. So you then find a note on a log, and this was a log that was kind of like, you could tell that it was implied that this was the log that they had like forced Genta to stand on before hanging him, like kicking it out from underneath him. So this is that log. And so there's a note on the log, and you can read the note, and it says, "Chuta, I hope you one day forgive me for the choice I made." And that's the end of the note. So then you get a quest to find the father, and you follow his tracks to, it's only like, 10 or 20 feet away. You follow his tracks to the edge of this cliff above the river right there, and you find his geta, which are wooden sandals.
Hey, it's Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. Now, I was looking for fun ways to tell you that Mint's offer of unlimited premium wireless for $15 a month is back. So I thought it would be fun if we made $15 bills. But it turns out that's very illegal. So there goes my big idea for the commercial. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. New customer offer for first 3 months only. Speed slow after 35 gigabytes if network's busy. Taxes and fees extra. See mintmobile.com.
Good night, itchy eyes. Good night, sudden sneeze. Good night to your symptoms of allergies. Zysol is the allergy medicine you take before bed. It provides powerful relief while you rest your head. Not just all night, but all the next day. Zysol keeps working, keeping allergies at bay. And without those annoying symptoms disturbing your rest, you can wake up the next morning feeling your absolute best. Remember, be wise all. Take Zysol. At night.
Your earbud fell in a coffee cup. You need a taco pick-me-up. When modern life gets rough, grab the timeless taste you love. Paso, the old El Paso.
And you find out that the father has killed himself. And then you get a cutscene where it's just Jin by himself. And Jin says, that the guilt was too much for the father, so he drowned himself, but it was the Mongols who pushed him to do it. And that is the end of the quest. So definitely not a super happy ending there. Yeah, pretty disappointing, pretty upsetting. Just once again, I know I've mentioned this a lot, but the horrors of war, these are the types of stories that you'll encounter. They did a great job in this game of, showing that in like a really nuanced and just caring sort of way, emotional way. Yeah, and one thought I had is I wanted to go back and find Chuta to tell him, like, hey, your dad has passed away, and I don't know if this is like your family farmstead, but now it's yours, basically. Whereas that doesn't happen. I get it from a quest perspective. Why? Because, like, they don't want to make you just run back and forth over and over again. But I don't know. Because following the actual story, I mean, this farmstead and this house is now just abandoned. And I guess someone will, inhabit it one day. But yeah, just felt sad to see, like, a family legacy disappear like that. And yeah, one final interesting fact about this. So apparently, this fact is from I found this on the Ghost of Tsushima wiki page for this quest. So the pair of undone Geta, and that's the wooden sandals. So you find these sandals like right at the edge of the cliff, and so this is kind of like a visual indicator that the father took his own life. And apparently, in Japanese culture, undoing your footwear is widely known to be done before one of three things, which is entering a house, going for a swim, or taking one's own life. So, hey, that's just really fascinating that that was included there. All right, so now we've only got 2 quests left, and they're pretty quick, honestly. So the next quest we'll do is Hidden in Snow. So I just want to say I found this quest to be like, this is one of those quests where I thought it was kind of like freaky in a really good way, where it was like I was really intrigued by the mystery of what was happening, and there was some really gruesome things you were finding along the way, and I was starting to feel like kind of freaked out, intrigued, angry. I wanted to get some justice for what was happening here. So this quest takes place at the Sago Mill in Sago Prefecture. So the Sago Mill is a town, and it's a town where I guess they specialize in making dyes for clothes. So you arrive at Sago Mill to investigate the town, and right as you ride in, you see this civilian who just runs away from you. Like, he's just running away from you. So you then follow him inside a building, and when you ask him what his deal is, he says, "Oh, I thought you were a bandit." And Jin then says, "Oh, well, if you're having trouble with bandits, I'll help you." But then he says, "Oh, well, you should go tell our head man, Sota." So that's what you go do. So you go talk to Sota, and you get a cutscene. So right away, Sota recognizes you as the ghost, and Jin asks, "Why then are your people running from me if you know I, am a supporter of the Japanese?" And Sota says, "Well, a stranger can be anybody." And then Jin says, "Okay, well, I'm here to help. Do you have any bandits or anything you need help with?" And Sota says, "Oh, no, we need no help. You can just carry on." And Jin is very suspicious of this. And so he asks why. And Sota says, "Well, our enemies are disease and starvation, and that can't be cured with a blade." So then the quest starts right there. So yeah, after the quest starts, you leave Sota behind this building, and then you start looking around the town because something feels off. So as you walk out of this building to start looking around, a civilian starts whispering to you, and he says, "Oh, follow me, but don't stay too close so no one sees us so we can talk." So you then follow the civilian to this spot, and it's kind of like this small courtyard where there's a couple buildings around it. And so he tells you that he saw Sota sneaking around a few nights ago at this particular spot, and that the villagers avoid this area for some reason. And so he says that something seems off and Jin should look around. So Jin tells him that he's brave for speaking up and tells him to hide while he starts looking around. So yeah, so you start looking around and you go inside this first building there. And right away, you find these big wooden boxes, and there's like a lot of blood on the boxes, and you can see there's one box that has the top like lifted up. So like all the boxes can be like lifted up, or the tops can be lifted up or closed down and locked. And there's like an air hole in each box. So right away, you get freaky bad vibes here. And so around each air hole of all the boxes, it's like super bloody. And then there's blood on the ground. And so then you investigate this pile of like clothing, and you find that it's like women's scraps of clothes in a pile here. So Jin then determines that people have been locked inside these boxes, and like they've been trying to like, claw their way out, and that's where like some of the blood might come from at the holes. So right away I was like, yo, I don't know what's going on here, but whatever it is, I'm going to find out what is happening and bring some people to justice. So then you go into the next building and you find a drowned body in this large wooden container of dye. So obviously that's pretty freaky. It's like, well, I don't think someone just fell in there. So you then find a rope above it where someone was hung from. So again, very freaky. And this building's just abandoned. Like all these buildings are abandoned. Everything seems like this village has been just like run down. It's no longer being cared for. There's snow inside. Like it seems like this town has been like looted or something terrible has happened here. So then you go into this final building to investigate, and you find a pile of 6 to 8 bodies in a side room, they're covered in snow, and there's blood on the ground. And so Jin says like, well, it's too cold to bury these bodies, so they just like dragged them in here and hid them. And all the bodies in this side room of this building are men, and they've been killed with weapons. And so Jin says that, Sota said that, oh, well, everyone's like been dying of disease and starvation, but these people were clearly murdered. So that's pretty freaky. So just a quick side note, actually, when I first entered this town, I started looking around, and I just wandered into this room before I started the quest, and I was like, what the hell is this? and there was nothing you could do with it until you start the quest, and then you have to go back there. So I actually like made a note of that, because I was like, is this just like a random encounter, or what is this? So yeah, eventually you go back outside, and you find lots of tracks outside. And so Jin then determines that someone killed some of the villagers, but took a large group of other villagers away. So then you have to follow the tracks. So you start following the tracks, and they eventually lead out of town across a bridge. And as you follow the tracks across the bridge, you come upon a dead woman on the side of the road with bound hands. And then you just keep following the road, and you find more tracks leading up the road until eventually you arrive at a farmhouse where there's a Mongol squad and the hostages that they've taken from the Sago Mill. So this is just a regular combat encounter. You have to clear the squad of Mongols. You can do it via stealth or just engage them. This was a moment for me where I was in justice mode. I was in Batman mode. I was like, I'm engaging these guys head on, because this is some messed up stuff. So after you clear the Mongols, you speak with the women hostages who are outside they're around like a campfire, and they tell you that the men of Sago survived because they turned the women over to the Mongols. Oof, right away I was like, oh man, I'm gonna exact some revenge, some justice when we get back to this village. And so Jin asks how that can be the case when he found so many dead men in the town. And this woman tells you that those are the men who tried to stand up for them, and they were killed. So she then says that they don't want to go back to Sago Mill, and that they're just going to make a new home at this farmstead. But she says that Jin is the only person who can give them justice. So then you get the final part of the quest, which is to return to Sago Mill. So you head back there, And I gotta say, I thought this was epic. You get a cutscene where Jin is walking into the center of the village, and he's calling out Sota. He's calling out the people of the village, and he's saying, "People of Sota, I am Jin Sakai. Get out here right now." And then, like, you know, they like sheepishly come out. It's all like, you know, downtrodden looking men, and Sota comes out. And so then Sota basically says that it was all his plan, and he bullied the other people into it. And you know that like he's the one responsible. And so then he basically like gets on the ground and kneels in front of you, and your quest is literally just to kill him. Like the quest is just kill Sota however you want. There's no duel, there's no running, nothing. So I chose to kill him with a flaming arrow. I think he pretty much will just die right away no matter what you hit him with. It would be super funny if you hit him with an explosive arrow or like a black powder bomb or something. That'd be just a funny way to do it. But I hit him with a flaming arrow. So yeah, then as you do that, all the other men of Sago, they then run away, and Jin shouts at them, "Never come back to Sago Mill, and you know you're never welcome back here again." And then the quest ends with talking with the villager who helped you and gave you the tip early on. And Jin basically tells him what happened and advises that he joins the women at the nearby farmstead settlement, and that civilian agrees to do that. So yeah, that is the end of the quest. I have just a couple notes on this. You know, I thought this quest was actually really notable because it's really the first and I would say the only time in this game that I've seen where there's like an overt quest or discussion that's very overtly about gendered violence. Obviously, throughout history, women have been subjected to, you know, disproportionate amounts of violence and different types of, you know, violence and oppression than men have been. In this game, there's been times up to this point where there's been very, you could say like very small hints towards gendered violence, but it's been rare that it's been like, oh, these women have been captured and are being oppressed specifically. It's kind of like gendered equally, where it's just like, oh, like, you know, this town is under attack and you just have to save everybody. This is kind of the first time where, you know, you see that like the women in particular have been sold off by the men to the Mongols, and you don't really get any more reasons why or, you know, anything else beyond that. But I thought it was really important to include that, just to show, like, you know, how wrong it is that this happened, that you know, trafficking happened in history, and that this is another way that, like, you know, women were sold off, and in a case like this, bartered. Like the men of Sago literally just bartered their women away for safety as a negotiating chip, and just how wrong that is. So it's just a really notable quest in that way. And one other thing I wanted to mention about this town of Sago Mill, you can find a couple records just like in the you know, top floors or other sections of these buildings, and they're actually records about the Lady Masako quest line, and it's about Lady Hana. And one of the records seems to be from Lady Hana's husband, Ikeda, where he's saying, like, you know, it's like him right before he goes off to Komata Beach, where he says, like, oh, like, you know, my wife isn't good for anything except for keeping me warm. You know, that's why I drink so much, and, you know, I'll be back from Komata Beach and keep an eye on her. And then there's another record where it's like a servant who's basically saying, like, oh, Lady Hana's been meeting with people, and there's like a lot of hushed whispering, and people are coming and going. It seems like something weird is happening. So I actually really liked that. I thought those were like really cool records to find. Just that they were insightful. They add characterization and just like show you this whole part of the story that was happening while you didn't even know that it was ongoing as you were playing through Act 1 and Act 2. And in the years, you know, leading up to the Mongol invasion as far as Lady Moscow's storyline goes. So yeah, that is the quest, Hidden in Snow. I actually thought it was a really good quest all in all. It doesn't take super long, but probably one of the best side quests in the game, not counting the main ally quest. So then there's only one final quest left in Act 3. And that final quest is called The Cost of Fear. So it takes place in Jogaku Prefecture. So you basically arrive to find a civilian poisoned on the side of the road. And he says that it's too late to save him, but Jin could still save his family in a cabin like up the hill nearby by the cliffs. So here you start the quest. Unfortunately, the civilian dies from being poisoned. And so you start heading out for this family's house. So it's not super far up ahead. You find it and you hear people inside. So, or at least like one woman, but it sounds like there's multiple people. So you get a cutscene where Jin is saying like, hello, I'm Jin Sakai, and they don't let you in. And after Jin introduces himself, this woman recognizes him as the ghost, and she thinks that he poisoned them. And she says like, oh, we're poisoned and you're the one who didn't. Haven't you done enough already? And Jin says, I did no such thing. But they say, well, we heard what you did at Castle Shimura and how you killed all those people. Oh, I was so annoyed by this. So Jin then says, those were Mongols. I was killing the Mongols to free us. And then they say, well, death follows you everywhere and I'll never let you in here. So, yeah, right away I was like, oh my God, just people, come on. Do you have any sense? I'm trying to free us from invasion. I'm not going to kill you. I did not poison you. Oh my God. So then Jin basically says, I have to get them food and medicine. And Jin says there's a camp nearby where I can find it to save them. So you start traveling to a camp again, it's really close by, and it's called High Point Guard Post. So you travel up the road to this High Point Guard Post, and once you get there, it's abandoned. It's like clearly a Mongol camp with Mongol yurts and such, but there's none there. So you then basically navigate through this camp and you go inside the yurts and the buildings and you search around and you pick up medicine, food, and with each thing you pick up, Jin says, okay, like I can bring this back and help them. So after you find the medicine and food, you ride back down the hill to the cabin. And as you come into sight, you see smoke rising and you realize that it is on fire. And you see that there's now a squad of Mongols on side. They're burning this cabin down. As you approach, you see a hanged, burned body outside. You see like another dead body. I think it was like impaled on a spear. Another just brutal thing. So you have to clear the squad of Mongols outside. There's not a ton of them. It's a pretty small group and quest all in all. After you clear the Mongols, you find a small trail of blood outside, and you find the woman you were talking to. She is dying on the ground with an arrow in her stomach. Jin wants to help her, but she says no. She says that everyone who was in the cabin and people who came back, I guess, is dead. And she says that if she had let Jin in, they all might have lived because he would have been there to protect them. And she expresses surprise that Jin came back, and then she passes away. And that is the end of the quest. And yeah, Jin kind of just takes a moment to reflect on trusting each other. He just has like a little line about that. And yeah, that is the end of the quest. So yeah, definitely not the most happy ending there. But once again, I mean, and I do like that there is a quest that is tied into what happens at the main story, and it shows like, oh, people have heard these rumors, and again, I really like from a story perspective that the game developers are trying to show that your actions have consequences. People have heard about the poisoning, and that there's like a real moral drawback to the poisoning. I personally just find it all a little ridiculous, where it's just like, yeah, has Jin ever, like, other than like bandits, has Jin ever just murdered Japanese throughout this game? No. So whenever I come across people like this, I'm just like, I can't help but put my head in my hands and just like throw my hands up in the air, in exasperation at them. But I do really like thematically that they include this. So yeah, that wraps up all 4 of the Tales of Tsushima side quests in Act 3. All in all, I thought these are pretty good sets of quests. They're not super long, and you can get the Mongol commander's armor from the Fit for the Conquest. So I advise everybody to do that. And with that, we have only one final episode left for Act 3 of Ghost of Tsushima, and that's just going to be one last episode about the final mythic tale in Act 3 that you can do, and just doing a roundup of all the Inari shrines and the lighthouses and just the various random encounters that I found in the game, and just putting a nice neat little bow on Act 3 in Ghost of Tsushima. So hey y'all, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you guys have been enjoying the podcast so far. I'll have the next episode out shortly. And hey, if any of y'all end up at the Kawachi Whaling Village, keep an eye out for any good deals on whale products. Until next time, y'all.